Welcome to the Hayley Eich podcast. In this episode, I speak to Ari, who is a fellow YouTube content creator and investor, and he shares with us how his portfolio has changed over time, why he is no longer a 100% pure dividend investor anymore. And we speak about so much stuff to do with mindset and how he actually plays the infinite game when it comes to investing. All of that and a lot more. I really do think this episode is very valuable, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you, Ari, for joining me. It's good to see you again. We've just been offline speaking for a little bit just then, and we said that the last time we did this was about a year ago, which is wild, crazy, crazy. So how have you been? What's been going on with you in the last year or so?
The markets have been up, down, left, right, everything in
Everywhere.
between. Yeah, to say the least. And I hate to use the word unprecedented, but honestly, I
Mhm.
feel like it literally has just been an unprecedented, amount of months, the last few
Yeah.
years. But all in all, a lot of moves have been made personally in my portfolio.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I
we'll get
think I'm
into
heading
that for
in a much
sure.
better direction. Yeah, and
Uh-huh.
just keep rolling. I mean, I can't wait for interest rate cuts. Hopefully they come soon as well.
Yeah. What went through your mind about that with the Jackson Hole meeting? And, we've just obviously yesterday as well, we had the Nvidia earnings. So just in the last, not that long, we've had two massive, massive events. What are your thoughts on both of those?
So I'll go with Nvidia first because that will be an easier one for me. I think
Okay.
Nvidia right now is, I mean, it steals the show. It's a lot of hype, but hype,
Always.
hype in a good direction because the future is AI. The future is
Mhm.
chips. The future is everything that Nvidia and the alike encompasses.
Yeah.
So, but on the other end of that script, yeah, I want to say that personally, for me, I'm not invested in Nvidia. I don't have plans to be
Mhm.
invested in Nvidia. I'm okay with that. I'm safe saying I know I missed that boat. But on the interest rate front, I think it's actually very interesting because, I mean, if we think back to 2 years ago, we were waiting for interest rate cuts, and then nothing
We've been
came, and then
waiting for so long.
yeah, like, I'm like
Come
looking at
on.
the watch that I'm not wearing, and I'm like, okay, when is it actually going to come? And I
Mhm.
think though, what I'm even sharing on my channel more and more is Jerome Powell is flirting more and more with interest rate cuts. And
Mhm.
it's all been, of course, contingent upon data. The data is looking good. And I really do think we will get the rate cuts soon. And my thesis here is that when the first rate cut hits and Powell pulls that trigger, I think
Mhm.
we're going to get a nice jump in the market. I don't think anything, absurd like nuts,
Yeah.
but I
Mhm.
do think we're going to get that bullish activity.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's like you said, it's been a long time coming. It seems to be every single time we hear about it, it's not this time, but data dependent, maybe next time, and it just keeps rolling around. So I think I think maybe September's going to be the first one. But hey, we will wait and see. We'll find all that information out soon. And on Nvidia, do you know what you said there about you don't have a position in it, you don't plan to, you kind of see it as like, yeah, you may have missed the boat, but you seem very okay with that. And I think that right there is so important because there are so many stocks that go up so much so quickly that a lot of people then FOMO into because of that exact thing. Like, oh, what if it jumps another 10%? What if it jumps another 20? Like, I must get in now. I wasn't even planning to talk to you about this or ask you, but how have you managed to have that mindset?
It's a great question. And, you know, I think just over the years, what I've realized was who I am as an
Mhm.
investor and why I'm investing. And I think that is arguably before someone actually gets started investing, one of the most important or critical pieces to really come to understand about yourself. So for me, I look to the future and I want to continue to sleep well at night.
Yeah.
I want to invest into companies that are reliable, that I know they're going to be around, that I personally like and take an
Mhm.
interest in. So I'm sure we'll talk about some of the positions in my portfolio later on. But with that said, just coming to know myself better and better, and that's an evolving game, I feel
Yeah.
like. But it makes me confident in knowing that, okay, when I am investing into particular positions, whether that's, the ETFs I'm invested into or the individual stocks,
Hmm.
I want to know full out about the company. I want to have an interest in it. And
Yeah.
most importantly, I don't want to, like you shared, be FOMOing in with the rest of the
Hmm.
market. I like the positions that I have. I own them with strong conviction. I
Yeah.
don't plan on selling any of them anytime soon, at least my core.
Hmm.
And I will say that, years ago when I started investing, I think I made a big mistake, which has actually helped me today learn more about who I am as an investor, which was, first of all, I poured a lot of my money into just one particular ETF or
Okay.
index rather.
Hmm.
And looking back, I would have done something a little differently. But then the next move that I made that I think was a mistake was I just poured a lot of money into a bunch of positions, spread myself too
Yeah.
thin.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of trimming over the years, trimming the hedges. And now where I'm at is here's my core. This is
Hmm.
these are the positions I like. No need to get involved anywhere else until my core is really where I want it to be. So each of these
Hmm.
core positions, hopefully over 100+ shares and growing. And I can get into a little bit more about why the core,
Yeah, we will.
what that strategy is all about. But again, it goes back to that mistake and learning who I am as an
Yeah.
investor.
I love that. I love that. I think it's really tough to do when you first get started because you might select a few companies or a lot of them, whatever, index fund, individual stocks, and you're looking at your portfolio and you maybe see it's gone up by 8%, it's gone down by 2%, whatever. And then you see online that someone's posting their portfolio and it's up by 45%. And you're thinking, oh, I obviously don't know what I'm doing here. Let me scrap my plan. Let me just go and copy them basically, and it will all go well. Little have you've not really thought it through, because then what you see is actually the stocks that they've got may fit their risk tolerance, may fit their investing style. Hey, they might even be a trader. They might not even be a long-term investor. And then you've blindly copied 2 days after because you've forgotten to log into your account, which is probably a good thing. That portfolio has plummeted. You've lost most of your money and you're sat there thinking, maybe I should have stuck to my guns on that. So yeah, getting to know yourself and thinking about where you are in your journey, what your risk tolerance is, and all that stuff. Very important, but I guess hard to do in reality. And it does take some time, and it does take some mistakes, I think, as well. So yeah, let's get into. Oh, sorry, Ari, go on.
I was going to say, I just posted something. I shared something with my community yesterday, which is like, you're going to
Mhm.
fail. You are
100%,
100% going
and
to
that's
fail,
good.
whether you like it or not. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's going to be your best learning experience, your biggest teacher, every failure. And fail fast, fail hard, and
hmm,
learn how to fail. Because when you fail, and in this sense, getting to know yourself as an investor, like, I don't discourage people from, trading. I don't discourage people from growth investing, whatever they're doing.
yeah,
Try and fail, because
hmm,
eventually you will succeed and you'll hit the home run. You'll discover who you are, and I think you're going to be better off.
yeah, and you'll find what works for you. There's different strategies for every single person. Like I personally, I do have Nvidia. It's not the biggest position. It's about, I want to say about 7%. Might have dropped to a little bit lower given what's happened like yesterday with the stock. But yeah, it's not my biggest position. I do think, again, like you said, I mirror what you said about the future and how AI is moving, and I think that's going to exactly happen. And that's why I do want a bit of exposure.
Sure.
But I'm also not about to make it 100% of my portfolio, because I have other positions that I see a lot of potential for as well. But anyway, let's talk about your portfolio. I'm interested to hear exactly what you've got in there. So you've kind of mentioned that you have some individual stocks and some ETFs there, and you've been on a journey to what it looks like now. But how is your portfolio set up? Firstly, in terms of what assets you have, like, do you have much cash at the moment? Stocks, ETFs, index funds. What's the allocation looking like?
Sure. So right now, portfolio wise, and I'll give you, the numbers that people will see on YouTube.
Hmm.
But right
Yeah,
now, it's sitting around $203,000 in the portfolio,
nice.
and that's the one that's showcased on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then there's the other brokerage and then savings accounts and all that good stuff.
Hmm.
So with this particular portfolio that I showcase, and it was all about helping people, get to $100,000 or show them that it could be
Yeah.
done easily. Now it's like I got to think of a new goal. I guess that goal is like 500,000 or 1,000,000, right?
Yeah,
Just keep the train
absolutely.
going. But the portfolio right now is 50% stocks, and then the
Mhm.
other 50% is in funds.
Okay.
And I guess actually there is a 10% stake there just in cash right now. So about
Hmm.
$20,000 just in cash. More cash will be added to that uh, stockpile, if you will, this week, probably in the coming days. Bump that up to about $25,000 in cash. And then right now, so that 50% split there in the funds, we're talking about VU, so the
Yeah.
S&P, and then Vanguard's growth ETF there with technology, so VGT. And then
Okay.
I
Yeah.
VTSAX, which was my original investment foundation. And this is what I go back to saying was a part of the mistake, which we can get into
Okay.
in a bit if you'd like. And then on top of that, I also have VTI. So
Okay. Yeah.
Vanguard through and through with the funds.
Hmm.
And then on the other side, when it comes to the stocks, I am stock heavy. I mean, knee deep in Apple, about
Okay.
$27,000 in Apple.
Yeah.
And then we came up rather recently on, I think this may be surprising for anyone who knows me, but a big stake in Alphabet, just over
Hmm.
$20,000 Alphabet. So it's about 10% there. J&J's coming in around 16,000, a little over. Realty Income over 7,000. Lockheed Martin,
Hmm.
just about 6,000. So we got pieces in Amazon, Visa, Tesla, Coca-Cola, Medtronic, Darden Restaurants, with which I've been trimming rather recently, and then Starbucks is in there. So all in all, 17 holdings in
Hmm.
the portfolio.
Is that
And like I said,
17 individual holdings or 17 including ETFs?
all together, funds,
Altogether.
individual
Okay.
stocks, yeah. And that number
Hmm.
is going to keep coming down because I
Okay.
want to get
What's the
to
goal?
about 7 to 10 individual stocks
Okay.
and just 2 ETFs.
Why? Why do you want to get it lower? Is it because, well, I'm guessing it's to do with what I would think, as in like your time management and how you can follow all these companies. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's different.
Yeah, it's just the famous quote from Warren Buffett, right? Goes that it's, we all love to use Buffett, but
We
in
do.
terms of wealth preservation, you're going to
Yeah.
go for diversification, right? So
Hmm.
diversification is a way to preserve your wealth,
Yeah.
whereas concentration is a way to build it. And
Yeah.
I understood that, like fundamentally understood it years back, about
But
a
you have to
little over.
experience it.
Yeah, but I didn't
Same with
like.
me.
I just didn't do like I don't know. I can't explain it. I just like you jump into the market. It's exciting, and like I said, I started with VTSAX. I threw
Hmm.
$20,000 into VTSAX about a decade ago. And the big mistake there was I sat on the 20,000 in VTSAX, and I wish I would have put 10,000 into VTSAX, or rather
Hmm.
VU, but I went for VTSAX. And and then I wish I had another 10,000 already allocated into some individual stocks, but I played it ultra safe. And then
Hmm.
once I got comfortable, I started to build up the position in Apple, and I started to build up a J&J position. And then 2020 hits, which is where the madness happened for me. And
Yeah.
everything, as we all know, is on sale. And I loaded the boat, Hayley, way too much on everything I can get my hands on.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
fed into the hype of becoming like a passive income king. And I need passive income, passive income. And I like the idea of passive income. Who doesn't?
Hmm.
But the thing is, when you're investing, it's not entirely passive, if you will. And you start to focus more on like this, what I would think is really just an arbitrary number, as opposed to what matters, which is total return.
Yeah.
And I got sidetracked by the dividend income, which I still love to track.
Yeah.
But
But you
it's
just
when
see
I,
it from a different angle.
yeah, it's like when I really look at my timeline, I'm 30 right now.
Yeah.
And this past decade, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still gun ho with dividend stocks, and I'm still all about them. There's a key
Hmm.
difference now. I added G in there. Dividend growth stocks is
I'm going to
imperative.
ask you about this in a minute. Yeah.
So, when I first started, it's like, oh, I was watching Andre Jake and some of the other
Yeah.
guys that are out there, and it's
Hmm.
exciting, and the passive income's coming in, and I wanted to showcase that investing is easy, and you can make passive income. And
Hmm.
that's what I did. I built this channel and this community on dividend investing and passive income. And it's exciting. And you can see if you jump onto my channel and you're with me on a weekly basis or monthly basis for these dividend income reveal
Mhm.
videos, like the dividend snowball works. It it
Yeah.
just works hands down. Does it work as fast as I would like it to? That's the other question. And so without the G, growth,
Mhm.
it doesn't work as fast as I would like it to. But without dividends entirely, I don't feel as safe and as secure. So dividend growth investing is now the new angle. And in 2020, I think it was like midway through 2020, I was sitting and I was listening to a Bill Ackman interview,
Okay, yeah.
and he had shared that at any given time, so we'll take right now, Hayley, there's only ever 5 to 7 real high quality
Yeah.
companies that are out there. And then I was like, what am I doing in like 50 or 60 positions? Right? And like, is a 25-cent dividend really that cool? And it wasn't. And as exciting as it can be to share and oh, here's the dividends that are coming in, it's like, well, total return wise, I'd rather have my portfolio get to where I want it to
Yeah.
be versus just sharing 25-cent dividends because I have 3
Mhm.
shares of ExxonMobil, right?
Yeah.
So that was a major shift that I had, and I started to trim, and now we're down to just the 17 holdings from the 50 to 60, and I have my stocks in focus, and then of course solely focused on growth, dividend growth.
Mhm. I love that because you've just been so honest and so transparent. I think a lot of people wouldn't want to say what you've just said because then you know, I think it shows that you've come a long way. And I kind of did the same thing. Like, that I started out as a dividend investor. I think that's how we maybe even first connected. And now I do still have dividend funds and dividend stocks in my portfolio, but as a percentage of the total, it's way, way less. And it's kind of exactly the same reason as what you just said. Like I mirror that completely. And on top of that, it was also that I was asking, okay, well, which companies are actually interesting to me? And a lot of the dividend, the good, really high quality dividend companies, some of them weren't so interesting to me. So it felt more like work having to stay on top of them, having to listen to earnings and stuff like that. Whereas companies that I'm heavily into now, like Palantir and like Tesla, it excites me. I want to follow. I want to know what's going on. So I'm more motivated to actually stay on top of it and get deep into research. So I think those two things combined, what you said, plus the interest, is kind of what guided me away from being solely a dividend investor. But like I always say, I don't think you have to be one or the other. You don't have to, it's not like a cult where you have to say, I am a dividend investor and I can never have anything else because that would be silly. We've all got to do what's best with our money. But I have some questions there. You mentioned a few different things that I want to ask you about. So
Sure.
in terms of, you said Apple. Obviously, Apple, they do pay a dividend, blah blah blah, very small one. But I want to know your take on the argument that I've been seeing a lot recently against Apple, which is the whole idea that they're not innovating anymore, that they're starting to fall behind. They're bringing out a new phone every however long, and that's kind of all they're doing. They're not really pushing the boat out on anything else. I'm guessing you disagree with that, and I'm guessing you see something in Apple that makes you want to be a long-term holder.
Phenomenal question. And
Sorry to just throw it on you there. I just thought of
no,
that as you were.
no, it's a really great question. I had a conversation actually the other day with someone, and I also have a bunch of interviews on my channel from masters of the market, and I'm always
Mhm.
talking, picking their brains on why their stocks, and likewise
Yeah.
them for me. And so, anyways, I'm engaged in this conversation, and you know, first of all, I do want to say the more investors that I speak to, and I've had investors on who have just solely been invested into dividend stocks and they become
Mhm.
millionaires just off of
Yeah.
dividend stocks. On the other end, off of growth stocks.
Mhm.
Just yesterday, I had on a day trader who went from, $10,000 in debt to over $2 million
It's
from day
amazing.
trading.
Yeah.
And why I'm sharing that is because you need to get invested into the companies like you said you have interested, high conviction in, and look into the future
Mhm.
and realize where we're headed, no matter what you're investing into.
Yeah.
And so When I look into the future, I see a future that is very tech oriented.
Hmm.
And I also see, or notice rather, that it's we're really only just beginning on this tech
Yeah.
revolution. We're like toes deep. And
Hmm.
what's crazy is just the pace and how quickly we are moving into
Yeah,
the
the shift
future.
is happening quicker than anything that's ever come before.
Blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And when I look to Apple, okay, I go back to a couple of why did I get invested into Apple is because I loved the products that they
Yeah.
produced. I'm a huge Apple guy.
We're
No,
probably using them right now. Well, I am. I can
yeah,
see it in front of me.
I love Microsoft. I believe they're going to be a part of the future too. But I am an Apple guy through and through. And so when I was making that investment decision, I was saying to myself, you know, I use the products. I got the phone, I got the
Hmm.
MacBook, I got, all the products. So why am I not actually an owner or stakeholder in
Of
this
what
business?
you're, yeah.
So that's why I got invested. Now, that's a great start, rhyme or reason
Yeah.
to get invested into a company. If you're using their products, well, you might as well also invest into the company because you believe in them.
Hmm.
So, with that said, as I've developed as an investor, of course, there are more pieces to the puzzle now. But when I look into the future, which is now key for all my investments,
Hmm.
where's the company heading? And I want to go first to Apple's slogan, if you will. It's think differently.
Yeah.
Think different. And so when I think about that, it's not we're producing the best computers. It's
Hmm.
not, we have the best iPhones or we're producing iPhones for the masses, smartphones, so everybody can have their hands on, a cellular device. I don't know, something of that sort. It's we are thinking differently.
Yeah.
And then I take a look at like Tesla as well. We can go into Amazon, right? Like
Hmm.
you start to look at these companies' slogans and what they really are. Like Tesla is not a car company, as
Yeah.
you know, right? And
Yeah.
so, what is Apple really? I think
Hmm.
Apple is a company that is doing exactly as they say they do, thinking differently about the future. They are moving in a brilliant direction with a product that's already well established and in all of
Hmm.
our hands. The vast majority of people I know are using their products, love their products. And so, is there going to be another game changer that's going to come around and take these devices out of our hands and swap it out with something else? Maybe.
Hmm. Might
I'm
be the
doubt-
headset.
yeah, but I'm doubtful of it because I think Apple's got that market. They got the funds.
Mm.
And if you're a competitor, they'll crush you. They'll just make
I
it better.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, even if there is something that comes along to be the next thing that takes over the phone, we have to think, okay, well, are Apple going to play a part in that story? Probably.
Sure.
Even if their iPhone gets wiped out, I mean, it won't be that dramatic, but they are quite likely to be a part of that next story. I don't think a company like Apple that have built such a strong ecosystem will just, willingly roll over and say, it's not our time anymore. We're gone now. I think the time that we start seeing, like physically in our everyday life, we start seeing that Apple products are becoming less and less popular, then I might ask some questions. But I don't have Apple as an individual stock, so I don't follow them like as closely as you do. But yeah, I've just been hearing from quite a lot of people like, oh, they're losing you know, their push, they're losing the innovation. But I like
This
what you said there. I think it makes
this
sense.
this argument though is it's almost like we've been hearing it for so long.
Yeah,
Like
true.
Apple's done for. Okay, but
Yeah.
are they really? Like sales in China goes down, Apple's done
Hmm.
for, right? But then it
Yeah.
pops back up. iPhone, it's the same. It really is almost the same iPhone that's coming out. Sometimes, some years it's bigger, some years it's smaller. The camera
Hmm.
keeps advancing, right? But we
Yeah.
keep buying. We keep
Yeah.
buying the
Yeah.
iPhone. So it's like, okay, but that just means they have a great product and it's working. Do they need to improve upon it? Sure. As the future advances, I'm sure the iPhone will continue to probably get, very slim or,
Hmm.
whatever it's going to turn into. I don't know yet. I also want to go and take a look at who's running these companies, right? Like
Yeah.
when
Very
you think
important.
about Steve Jobs, he was a visionary. Elon
Hmm.
Musk is a visionary. And Tim Cook. who took over now, right?
Yeah.
For Steve Jobs, a visionary.
Hmm.
The question is, who's going to take over for Tim Cook when that time comes? I think that will be interesting, and I think that that's going to make or break a lot of these companies that are in the running now. Do
Hmm.
we get visionaries or do we get CEOs? Two very different
Very
types.
different. Yeah. Yeah. And that plays a big part in how I pick companies, like a big, big part. When I think about, like you said, Tesla, Elon Musk, I know people have their opinions of him politically speaking and everything else that he gets involved with. But when it comes down to who he is in terms of running the company, I agree with you. Thinks very differently. Absolutely. And you need that to guide a company to do something so crazy that's never been done before. And then I have Palantir, and that's Dr. Alex Karp. And again, he's very out there. He's very different. Some people might watch an interview and think, oh God, who is this guy? But actually, I think he's the right person to be running a company like that. But I want to ask you now about sectors in your portfolio. Would it be a fair assumption to say that that over the time that you've been invested, you've sort of shifted towards more tech companies?
Oh,
Does that
absolutely.
have like okay.
Tech
What do you
tech is
go on.
just about, about 50% of my
Okay.
portfolio at this point. I mean,
Hmm.
not portfolio, I have the stocks that are in there, right? Like tech is the future. And if we
Yeah, that's how
were
you want to be investing.
50 years ago, well, tech wouldn't be really a thing we're really hyped up until we'd be
Hmm.
nervous about tech. Like, what is it? Right? We
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back
yeah.
just 20 years ago to Jeff Bezos trying to raise money for Amazon. And
Yeah.
people are saying, well, what's the internet? So I think as investors, we have to stay focused on where we're heading.
Hmm.
We have to appreciate the past. And we also have to take a look at how we can transform a lot of these companies that need to develop themselves to prepare
Hmm.
for the future and do well in the future. So all of these companies, I mean, even if it's as boring as your Procter and Gamble's, they're gonna need to implement AI, right?
Yeah,
Or technology will play a
yeah,
bigger role for them. Now, their products probably aren't going to change because you, me, and everybody else, we still need toothpaste, shampoo, and
yeah.
everything else. But the systems that they have are going to
Behind the
need
scenes, yeah.
exactly, and so all these companies are going to be advancing. How are they going to be
Mm,
advancing? That's the big question.
yeah. Do you care about having exposure into most sectors, or do you not even view it as that? Because when I look at my portfolio, if someone said to me, "How many sectors are you exposed to?" It would be very little, and maybe people wouldn't like that. I don't really care to have exposure to many sectors, but I know for some people, it's very, very important to them.
Sure, it's not as important to me as the companies that I'm invested into, and that
Yeah,
comes at the
same for
risk,
me.
by the way, of
Yeah,
needing to ebb and flow with the market sometimes because
yeah.
when you're heavy in a certain sector and that sector tanks, I mean, you're going to tank with the
Hmm.
sector. And can you stay afloat and enjoy the water? Can you enjoy those waves, the tidal wave or
Yeah.
not? And I think just as I've been investing, I've been learning how to swim better. And that's
Hmm.
really what it comes down to, because again, to go back to concentration in a portfolio, and Buffett's got all the quotes in the world. A lot of these guys have all the quotes in the world about diversification, diversification. The thing is, none of them really act on it. They're fully invested in what
Mm.
they believe.
Yeah.
Like, so you take a look at that, and I'm saying, okay, diversification, it's wonderful, and it helps people invest safely. But I don't really think if you're in this space or in this game, if you will, meant to just enjoy the average returns if in fact there's an opportunity to
Mm.
perform better. And I think we all should be chasing better, but that comes at
In
the
everything.
expense of everything. Yeah, for sure. I
Mm.
mean, these are life lessons more than just investing, but like when I look at how I invest, and that's the other key piece is you got to be interested in what you're invested in. You got to know about what you're investing in. I know that when tech gets hit, it's going to be a volatile ride for me, and I'm okay
Yeah.
with that today.
Mhm.
Maybe 10 years ago when I was scared of the market, I would say, I'm just going to stick to this ETF." But you start to just, I mean, and you probably know this, we're looking in the news every day, the macro news bites. The
Yeah.
market's going up, it's going down. 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe now, the market, was at the low point. Now it's back
Hmm.
at a higher high, and it's just these are the waves. Like surf, enjoy, but you got to learn how to surf and enjoy and swim. No one
Yeah.
starts that way.
Yeah, and it's hard to do it. It's hard not to have that gut wrenching feeling when you see your portfolio drop by 30% and you know that you should continue buying. That's what you've been told. The greats say it, be fearful when greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. And another very known quote, but putting that into practice is actually a lot harder. And I think you have to go through a cycle of the market falling and you not doing anything to then see it come back up and say, if I had purchased here, I'd be in a lot better position. Okay, next time I'm going to learn my lesson. But it is hard to do.
Look,
So,
I just finished this. I'm sharing this with everybody recently. This book, Richer, Wiser,
why is it?
Happier,
Okay.
by William Green.
Hmm.
Phenomenal read by anyone who's looking for someone who's looking for an amazing book. And this book, it's really an interview series of
Hmm.
multiple Wall Street vets. I mean, I'm talking about
Hmm.
the hedge fund managers, the Charlie Mungers of the world as well,
Yeah.
Druckenmillers, right? And they're interviewed. And the commonality that they share is basically become emotionless.
Mm.
The market you are gonna fail, you're gonna lose money,
Yeah.
it's inevitable, the market's gonna go down. But on the flip side of this script, you're gonna learn
Yeah.
who you are, strategies, and you're going to ebb and flow with the market. And over the long span of time, the market goes up. So it
Hmm.
really then comes down to, what are you investing into? Are you investing into penny stocks? And if you're investing into the penny stocks, so that's fine too, but do you know what you're doing? Do you
Yeah.
know, right? Do you have that ability to stay calm when everything
Hmm.
is going awry? It's become emotionless. And that's applicable to, again, investing, life,
Hmm.
everything. Like, the more emotionless you are, at least personal experience, the more emotionless I've become with my money, the more I've made.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And thanks for the book recommendation. I haven't actually read that one. I wanted to ask you, whilst we're on the topic, we might as well do it now. You're a big reader, right? You like reading. I don't know if it's fiction and
Love it.
nonfiction or just, yeah. What have you got some
Voracious
recommendations?
reader.
Yeah.
if if I had, I mean, I have like a Rolodex of titles that go through my mind when someone asks me this. Um, I've been reading a lot lately, Amazon and Jeff Bezos
Okay.
oriented books,
Yeah.
because I am fascinated by big thinkers, the game
Yeah.
changers, the visionaries, not because I'm in pursuit of trying to become them, but
Hmm.
because I want to understand how they think.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's fascinating to me is they're never set out for the fame, the money. They're set
No.
out with a
Yeah.
mission to just do something bigger than themselves for others.
Mm.
Like, let me change an entire industry, the world. Elon Musk, perfect example. Bezos, right? Like, these are game changers. So I've enjoyed recently a lot of Bezos books. The Bezos Blueprint was a great
Okay.
read
Yeah.
for like leadership. And but now just finishing Richer, Wiser, Happier. That's been an amazing read, recent one. I want to also share The Infinite Game by
Okay.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
This book is not necessarily about investing, but it's about outlook. And I think it's
Hmm.
applicable to investing. And I think every investor ought to sit down and ask themselves a very fundamental question: why am I investing?
Mm.
Why am I doing this? And you got to get very clear on that, because I think ego has a very sneaky way of
Yeah.
popping up and butchering your returns if you're not crystal clear on why you're doing what you're doing. Again,
It's so
applicable
important.
for all aspects of life. But like, my ego can tell me I'm a great investor now. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to get
Yeah.
out here. I'm going to make this amount of money. I'm going to profit. I'm going to do it again. You know what? I'm the next Buffett. And it's like, that could be so easily my ego. And on the
Yeah.
other end, if I go egoless and I go with my strategy, my process that works for me, which is important to note. It works for me,
Mm-hmm.
then I make money. And so this book, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, is all about what game are you playing? Are you playing the finite game of life or the infinite game of life?
Mm,
And the finite game says that I'm in this game of life for a set period of time. There's a winner and there's a loser. And Hayley, if you're winning, I'm a loser. So I
mm,
can't let you win. And I'm going to do
yeah.
everything I can to try to outbeat you. But the infinite game, if I choose to play that game, says, Hayley, there's room for you at the top and for me at the top. Let's work together. Hey,
Mm,
we're playing an infinite game. It's not about my lifetime, it's about generational wealth.
yeah.
And what's interesting is then I start to connect the dots between the big thinkers. And these big thinkers have left something called legacy behind for all of us. Steve Jobs, I mean, he's left Apple for us with just one
Yeah.
bite in their logo, right? There's room for all of us. And Elon Musk, right, has revolutionized with EVs the
Mm-hmm.
world. And whoever gets really to space for, I don't know, if it's Blue Origin with Bezos or it's Musk really with this, but these guys are changing the world. They're playing an infinite game.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Buffett, there's an amazing documentary out there about Buffett. And it starts off with a beautiful quote. I will personally butcher it, so I'm not going to try to quote it, but there's a bunch of coins that are falling. And there's a voiceover that then shares like Warren Buffett was never in it for the money. He just loved numbers.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like so I sit and I say, why am I doing this? Why why am I investing? Why am I on YouTube? What am I do like there's so many other things that I could be doing. Why this? I did not come from necessarily a beautiful, stable, secure home, but I want to give my kids that,
Yeah.
my future kids that, right? So I want to build that. I want to build them something better. And then on the side, YouTube is fun. Um, I also am still working corporately. That's great. But what I'm really interested in is helping kids who are in my situation of a nasty divorce situation and the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
help them rise above
Yeah. I
the
love that.
emotions of that storm and make something of themselves. So what do I
Mm-hmm.
do? I speak often at, depression facilities, sober homes, anything you could
Mm-hmm.
think of to speak, to share, and then to help others build something for themselves, a nest egg. Because then the
Mm-hmm.
next question is, what do you want to do with that? So, Haley, you make $1 million from the stock market. Now what?
Yeah. Like some people, they might just want to go and blow it all on nice cars. And if that's your goal, that's your goal. But that wouldn't be enough to drive me personally. I'm not, I mean, obviously there is a materialistic side to everyone. It would be silly for me to say I want to just live on the street. Like, obviously, I want a nice house over my head and all of that. But I'm not really doing this for the things. I personally want to change people around me's life and then future children, which is kind of what you've said.
I'm sure you've gotten these emails before, or comments.
Mm,
People reach out to you and say, wow, like, thank you. Like, following your journey has helped me. Whether it's
yeah.
teenagers I've been able to help at this point, or even those nearing retirement and
Yeah.
answering questions, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like, who am I? Like, I'm no
Mm,
one special. And you know what?
yeah.
The day will come when I pass, inevitably. Shame, right? I don't know, right? But that day will come. And it's said that within 2 to 3 generations, your name is typically forgotten.
Yeah.
So if I were to ask, you, I don't know, some historian, I always joke with people like, who was the 19th president of the United States or whatever. And like people are, I don't know. I'm like, exactly. Right. So,
Mm,
but the people who were, living around in that time, they could tell you who that was, a president or two before or after.
you good?
Ooh,
We'll have a drink break.
emotional.
Yeah.
No. Um, they could tell you.
Yeah.
So my name will be lost eventually.
Mhm.
What's going to happen with the money?
Yeah.
Can I help one more generation? That's the key question for me.
Mm. Having your why is so important, and I never knew all of that about you. Like, I love that. I love that you shared that. It's yeah, I urge anyone that's listening to this to think about why, because it's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing and just chasing the next big stock and FOMOing in and all this stuff. And ultimately, none of that matters if you don't actually have a reason why you're doing it, because you need a motivation, like a deep motivation to. Because it's not easy, is it? It's not easy to take a portion of your salary each month and actually put it into something that's locked away for many, many, many years and try and forget about it and let that grow unless you actually have a reason to do that. It's not easy
Hey,
for a lot of people. And obviously a lot of people as well, they have to sort out their situation before even getting to the point of investing. That's not easy if you have debt and stuff.
I'm intense. Like I'm super intense on whether it's when I'm speaking to people, individually or in front of others, but
Mhm.
I'm very intense in that we are either going to make excuses or we're going to drive results.
Mm.
And you're going to pick your battle. And both of those battles are not easy.
Mhm.
It may be comfortable, but comfortable in 50, 60 years, you're going to see where that got you. And
Yeah.
if you choose to do what's hard now, it will all be easy later. And so I personally choose every month throwing $2,000 into the stock market, no matter what,
Mhm.
no matter what. And then that's not even all, right? Like
Mhm.
this year, I made it a goal to try to get to $5,000 in the market every month.
Yeah.
And if I can't find something to buy, this is where the ETFs and the funds really
Yeah.
came sprouting and like growing like an oak tree now at 50% of my portfolio because some weeks I'm like, well, the positions in focus are not right now at a good deal, so let me just buy the market, and
Yeah.
that's okay with me. But don't stop, just keep going. And these, I feel like, excuses people have. When I was, a young kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, I started my own business in the neighborhood, right, of waxing cars in the summer and,
Mhm.
and washing cars, and then in the winter shoveling driveways. And if I could do that at 7, 8, 9, right, and then I managed to get all the neighborhood kids and have them work for me, and then I was like,
Oh,
the
amazing. Look at you.
so, but if I can do that at 7, 8, and 9, like, come on, cut me a break. People
Yeah.
can find the means to invest, and it may mean getting a little uncomfortable
Mhm.
with, I don't know, maybe staying in one week, the entire week.
Yeah.
Get to know yourself. I think people are scared of themselves. Don't go out all nights of the week. Stay in. Make dinner at home.
Mhm.
Have you know, maybe one
Find
day
ways to
you
make
treat
money.
yourself to that coffee. Yeah, come
Yeah.
on, like, give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's hard to do, but if you want it enough, you'll find a way. Let's just stick on that a minute actually. Let's talk about what you do in terms of your, you know, realistically what you do every month to get to a portfolio that you've managed to achieve. So what, like you said that you try and you don't try, you make sure that you invest 2,000, and did you say you're now working towards 5,000? That's like a goal for you that you want to
So
try and
it's
get in the
minimum
market.
bare minimum of 2,000 every month,
Okay.
no matter what, that's going in the
Yeah.
market. Now, by the way, what does that mean for my personal life? It means
Yeah, I
I
was
don't
gonna
go
say
out
what.
that much.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm
Okay.
I'm okay, I'm okay with that
Yeah.
because I'm just in the camp, and again, I'm intense. I'm insane, right? Like, I am on YouTube. I am building my YouTube community to help other people. That's what I like.
Mhm.
I don't need to go out every night of the week and drink beers or whatever and
Yeah.
hang around and talk about whatever. It's like I am driven to just want to
Mhm.
build this community to help others because that's what fulfills me. So that's a key piece, because
Yeah.
when you start, I think, down this investing journey, it's I'm going to throw this around. It's cute to invest like $100 a week. Like, it's cute, but you could do
Mhm.
better. You could do more.
Yeah.
And I was investing for quite some time, like, a couple hundred here, at least on the month, at least a few hundred. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, Ari, just take a moment to sit down, because I'm doing these masters of the market interviews and I'm on with investors who are in their early 20s, you know, just one of them a couple weeks back, just 20 years old. It's still in college. He's got $100,000
Wow.
sitting
That's
in a brokerage account.
great.
And then
Uh-huh.
I'm talking to the big wigs, if you will, who are millions and millions of dollars. They're like
Hmm.
40, 50 million. I had a hedge fund manager on. And I'm sitting here, I'm just like, this was at the beginning of the year, and I'm like, what am I doing? Right? Like, I have money that's sitting in a savings account, and I'm
Hmm.
making money, like, invest it all, like, burn the boats,
Hmm.
go all in, because this is it. And that, like, what I have constantly in my mind is a ticking clock.
Hmm.
That's just like, I hear the tick tock, right? And it's like, my day is going to come one day that I'm just going to be old and unable to experience the joys of life. And so I'm throwing in everything that I have into the market. And then when I hit a milestone, I take a trip to, a couple of weeks back, I was in Greece for a week. And
Amazing. I love Greece.
weeks before that, I'm like, so treat yourself, reward yourself, but, like,
Hmm.
be on a mission. I think we're
Yeah.
just, like, losing sight again. Like, why are we investing? What are we doing? And are you okay with not hitting your goals? Or is
Mm.
that going to become, for someone like myself, like, if I don't hit my goal, I will self-destruct here, in terms of, like, I know I could have done it. I know I can do $2,000 every month.
Hmm.
I It may be, every now and then a sacrifice, but what's the mission? And
Mm.
am I committed? Am I really committed, or do I just say I want something? And that goes for anybody. Like, I've had an investor on my channel who was working 3 jobs. He he shares a beautiful story. He's like, I'm driving in the car and I heard an info ad that said 7 out of 10 Americans are in debt. And he was like, that's
Hmm.
me. I'm one of the
Yeah.
7. And so he started to build a savings account, and then he started to invest, and then he said something amazing. He picked up another job, and then another job, and then he was working 3 jobs, and then he had $100,000 in his investment account, and he's going to keep going. And
Mm.
and so it's like, again, like, what are we doing? Like, are we making excuses, or are we committed?
And that is a question to ask yourself, not just with investing, with everything. What
Everything.
would you what do you say to someone then who, I'm just going to build an avatar for you here. Let's say someone is 30 years old. They have got a decent, a decent amount of money coming in, probably just enough to cover all of their basic requirements, put a little bit in savings, maybe 5%, and then the rest they maybe have, I don't know, $500 or less each month to invest. How does that individual take that next step? Is it getting another job? Is it looking for a hobby that can maybe end up giving money? Is it trying to get a promotion? Is it cutting back? Like, is it all these things? Like, what steps should they take?
I think the first step that we always take is, like, how do I get more?
Mm,
Like, immediate, like, everyone's like, I need a better salary. It's like, no, you don't.
mm,
Your first move should be to evaluate yourself, and
yeah.
maybe get a buddy who can evaluate you, because we're so nice to our I'm hard on myself.
Yeah, I'm brutal to myself and probably
I'm
too
like,
much.
oh, you went out to buy a coffee, like,
How
I
dare
am
you?
on that extreme, right? Like, but it for me, it works. And it works because you could see it on the channel, and you could see it in my
Mm.
accounts, and you could see it. So I'm sitting nicely at 30 years old, but I'm nowhere where I want to be. So
Yeah,
I better get to work.
someone else might look at you and think you've got everything compared to them, but you're saying that you're looking elsewhere and you're saying, actually, I'm nowhere that I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's the man in the mirror, right? Like,
Yeah.
I look in the mirror, I'm proud of where I came from and who I am today.
Hmm.
But when I look at myself in the mirror, Haley, I'm saying, you're better than this. You can do better. It may be uncomfortable, But let's take an honest look. And this is a lot of the times, I have a consultancy business that I started to run low key. But I've been helping people build their businesses and emulate the CEO within them. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what this comes down to is running your life like the chief executive officer of your life, because you are.
Mm.
And so and that's why I say it's a bunch of baloney and excuses when people are like, I don't have money to invest. I'm like, no, you do. You have to find it on your balance sheet, which you're neglecting. And so sometimes it may mean getting an auditor, audit
Mm.
what you're doing. And if you're not responsible enough to do that and make trigger decisions, then find someone who's gonna be hard on you.
Mhm.
And an easy life is not the life that I was ever after. An easy life is not the life I even want. Because
Mhm.
when I start to accomplish what I want to, right, with YouTube I'm giving it away to build something for others
Yeah.
who are in my position. So it's like the show's gonna go on. I don't want an easy life. I want something that's going to challenge me every day to make me a better person every day. And I better be better today than I was yesterday. And tomorrow I want to wake up and be even better. How's that going to happen? It starts with reading. Like this is mind boggling to me.
Yeah,
It's
I
sad.
find what you're yeah.
The average American's reading a book a year, less than.
No, some even I know people that don't consume. Okay, there's a difference between some people that just don't want to read, but they consume information elsewhere. I think that's okay. But I've also come across people that just don't have any interest at all in bettering themselves, in learning different things in any capacity, podcasts, books, just looking online. That blows my mind.
And they're the same people, by the way, who are sharing, I don't have the money to invest. So
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then don't come around, in 10, 30 years to be like, oh my God, now I'm on welfare, or now I'm stuck, or now I can't.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Because of
I
them
have,
actions.
I have firsthand when I lived in New York City, helped two homeless individuals.
Mhm.
And I don't like the word homeless because I don't think homelessness should define someone, but I'm going to use that just so everybody else can get the picture. Help them get back on their feet legitimately
Mhm.
and get back to living. And what it usually comes down to is this pity party, this sad story. And
Mm.
and you could tell yourself that, and you could make all the justifications in the world, but at the end of the day, no one's coming for you, right? Like
Like the
at least
victim, the
no one
victim
came.
complex.
Yeah. So if I
Mm.
want the $1,000,000, if I want whatever, no one's coming for me to say, here it is on a silver. And even if they did, I wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
Because it's about the process and the work, and it's beautiful, and I love the challenge. And so just to go back to your question, it's like, where does someone start? Go to the mirror immediately.
Mm.
Take a look at yourself and say to yourself, what am I doing right now? That I know it's like a guilty pleasure, but it's such a waste of money. It's
Yeah.
like that's the
There'll be
first
something for everyone.
realization. Oh, maybe it's Netflix, right? Like maybe it's the coffee a day. It's good old Starbucks. That's like $9,000 for a mocha choca thing, right? Like I don't know what it
Mocha
is,
choker.
but it's just like who knows what your itch is. And there's another book, Living with a Monk, and
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
like a phenomenal. But you could change who you are in an instant. You can recreate yourself. And so I've just been here like literally sculpting myself over the years, and I didn't realize I was doing it, but that's what I've been doing. And I'm at the point where I'm like, it's not that it's even a sacrifice for me not to go out anymore. I genuinely don't care to go out because
Mm.
the more I read, I mean, this was nuts a couple of years back when I read a book a week. Now this year I tried to do that again, and I'm just too much on my plate, so I've fallen short. But I've definitely at least two a month. Some months a book a week, so I'm giving myself some claps for that. But what I want to share with that is like when I did that, it changed my life because I was reading so much. There's so much intake that
Yeah.
when I went out with the friends and the whole thing, it was boring, and I needed
Mm,
to up my
interesting.
friend group, my circle needed to change. I needed to grow.
Mm,
And so therefore, I found myself in a very different circle. And now my circle consists of I want to say these higher rollers. They're like, I'm 30 and I'm rolling with the guys who are in their 50s and 60s, right? Grabbing the coffee with them because we're about to talk about the what's happening in the market.
yeah,
How can we help, rebuild something, change something, do something? And these individuals, some of which have been on, Masters of the Market, right? Like these are the guys that I am having the
yeah.
conversations with. And it's not the let's go watch a football game. I mean, come on, life is
Mm.
more than that.
Apologies for my camera. I think it's overheated. We'll continue. We'll continue. You can hear me, Ari?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. I was just going to say that with that mind, like everything that you've just said there, I just don't see a world in which you don't continue progressing to where you want to be. Like there are so many people that just don't even think 1% of what you've just said. So, you know, cut yourself some
It's
slack. I think you're doing fantastic.
it's a very, I think, concerning era that we're living in these
Mm.
days. And I don't want everybody to be as extreme as I am because this is who
You
I
don't
am.
need to cut back on Netflix necessarily. And yeah, it's about
Yeah,
just being more reflective.
enjoy yourself. But like if you
Yeah.
have a goal, be serious about your goal because I will
Yeah.
tell you this, hands down, Haley, the biggest driver for me today is the fact that my dream, my goal to do something that was personal to me is kind of washed out by this point. And so I will never let that happen again.
Mm.
And with that comes the fuel to like, I just later on this evening, I'm going to be sitting with someone. She wants to talk about, the next steps in her development in life. And it's like, just are you committed or not? Because I've lost. And after that major loss of something so personal to me, I will
Yeah.
never let it happen again. So you got to take everything personally and drive,
Yeah.
like, and so my portfolio is just going to be a factor for me to get, one slice of the pie for me, not the whole pie. I'm not in
Mhm.
this for the money. I'm in it for what the money is going to be able to do for others. And that is what's driving me.
Yeah, that's so important. Let's just before we hit the hour mark, let's just quickly I mean, I have so many questions for you. I'm just trying to think of the best ones with the time left because I could ask you questions all day. I think we think alike for a lot of things. So when I'm chatting to you, I'm constantly like, "Oh, I want to ask you about this. I want to get your opinion on this," because yeah, it's nice to speak to people that share a similar attitude and opinion on things. But anyway, what I'll ask you now is well, firstly, actually, this is just something that I wanted to ask earlier. Do the people closest to you, like people in your personal life, do they also invest? Are they interested or not really?
They're not as obsessed as I
As
am.
you are? Yeah. But they invest
I
or
had an uncle who worked at Fidelity for a decent amount of time, managing a $25 billion fund.
mm,
He was someone in my younger years who intrigued me.
yeah.
And then of course my father worked at Johnson and Johnson for quite some time as an executive and executive in sales there and what he taught me, I mean he's a very driven individual and he taught me how to look at money and life, and nothing
Yeah.
in life is free. I mean, I can hear those words in my head right now. Nothing in life is free. And when you go to buy something, do you need it or do you want it? And these are questions to ask
Mm,
yourself. The one thing though, it's like it's funny. We always talk about this now. My father and I, he never really got into the market. Like he was invested in Johnson and Johnson, of course, and then he just stuck
yeah.
to kind of index funds and which was all okay. But more now today, because I've gotten so invested in the market, now we have a lot more in-depth conversations about
Mm,
stocks. And sometimes I get that call from him. He goes, "Hey, what do you think is happening in the market? What should I invest
yeah.
into?" And now it's, I mean, it's wonderful to have those conversations and to sit there with him. And that's something, way in which we bond. I have a sister who works at the Federal Reserve,
Okay.
and I mean, I think all Federal Reserve officials are are probably very risk adverse individuals. I had someone on my channel on Masters of the Market who's also from the Fed, and he was solely invested into ETFs. And so my sister likewise, just ETFs, which is fine.
Hmm.
But I think when you're really in this game and in this space, you want to know about the businesses. You want to become the CEO, so to speak, of the business. Be a part of the decision making. Where's the future heading? Ask these bigger questions. And I have goals. Like, I know it's lofty and it's funny, but like I hope to get to the position to like actually have some large says in the companies that I'm investing into. And I'll just keep
Yeah,
investing.
absolutely. Yeah. Hmm. So in terms of the we spoke earlier briefly on this, but you're concentrating now on dividend growth investing. I was going to ask you, how do you find balance between finding dividend stocks and ones that are going to give you good return as well, and you're going to see that growth? Now the answer's there: dividend growth investing. What's that meant in terms of your portfolio? Has that meant selling a lot of positions that were maybe good companies, but you weren't seeing the growth, and now you're, I guess that's naturally led to more technology companies, like we were saying earlier. And what
Sure.
are you looking for? What are the dividend growth companies that you're seeking out?
So I still hold Johnson and Johnson, which is
Yeah,
not obviously a dividend growth
yeah.
company. It's growing its dividend quite slowly and not significantly, but it's a amazing dividend company. So that one has remained, and I like it. And I think about what I invest into. Again, I got to look into the future. Where are these
Mhm,
companies going, and what are they doing? And so I like healthcare companies, technology companies, um, and then I have so that there's a nice split there of predominantly invested into tech, and then I have like a safety net for myself of healthcare
yeah.
with Johnson and Johnson, and then I have consumer discretionary. So I feel like I'm
Mhm,
playing it safe, and then I have all the ETFs. So it's like I get really the vast amount of the market. But when it comes to the growth, the big G, right? What I look for is actually at this point in my life, at 30 years old with an investment timeline of forever, playing an infinite game,
yeah,
actually a much smaller dividend yield than what most dividend investors are after.
yeah.
And
Mhm,
I think we also get confused because we see how sexy a yield can be at like 9%, or like, I don't know, Tesla funds with these absurd yields.
yeah.
Uh, totally different story, but we get distracted because we're getting the passive income and we're hearing the checks, right? Like the cha-ching, and it's coming in,
Mhm,
but total return. Where do I want to be in 10 years, in 5 years, or in the long term, right? For me is like 20 years out. Well, it's not going to be hanging around a Verizon just collecting the dividend because I'm not,
yeah,
I'm still agile and fresh and can move and can take the risk on. So I target companies specifically that actually have a much lower yield, and that ranges depending on what I'm looking for. So we got a realty income play in my portfolio that's coming in about just over $7,000 in my portfolio. And that's going to give the nice yield of about, I think it's around 5 something percent. But then we take it down to Apple, Alphabet's in there, Visa. These are some of the lower yielders in there.
mhm,
Medtronic is a position that's in my portfolio as well, another healthcare gem that I had Medtronic in my IRA as well as outside of the IRA. And what happened as of a couple months ago when the stock popped is I sold Medtronic in my IRA and put that into a longer term play with Alphabet. So the portfolio is changing based on how I changed and based on
yeah,
now what I know today. So and then it comes down to do what are these companies doing? Would I like to run these companies? So we have realty income. I was a real estate guy myself in Manhattan. I love real estate, and I would love to be the big head honcho at realty income. I mean, talk about a vast portfolio
yeah.
with absurd, um, just an absurd vacancy rating, right? Like they never have vacancies under 98%.
Yeah, that's
I'd love
incredible.
that. And it's every month, but passive income there with dividends. But I don't need that right now. I don't need dividends right now. Because at the end of the day, I'm just reinvesting. So I look now, I'm like, the major stock into focus for me right now has actually been Visa.
Mm.
And I want to pump that position up much more. It's about $5,000 or so in my portfolio right now, and I just want to keep throwing money into it because where I think the future is heading with Visa as a facilitator of transactions, it can bend and mold its way into the future. So if the future is crypto, that's cool. I think Visa is going to be there.
Yeah.
If the future is exactly what it looks like today, just I don't know, cooler mechanisms with the card. I have no idea.
Mhm.
I think Visa will be there, and they have the capital to continue to reinvent themselves. And they're just a company that we don't think about on a daily basis. That's also
That's
another.
true. They're always there, but you don't think about them.
Yeah, I was sitting with someone the other day, and she was like, "How do I get started like investing?" I was like, "It's the classic like what do you use? What do you do?" And the answers were so surface. She was like, "Well, makeup," and I'm like, "That's a great start, but we can even go simpler. Like
Mhm.
pull out your wallet," and she pulls it out. I'm like, "What does the card say?" She's like, "Visa." I'm like, "Exactly. Like that's a company you can invest into,
Yeah.
and you don't even know you're using them."
Yeah, that's so true. Look around you first if you're trying to get started and think, what are you using? What are you interested in? So you said you reinvest all your dividends at this stage, you're not taking any. But what are you doing in terms of like taking profit? Because you said that you sold out of your position in your IRA and you rolled that money back in. Do you do that often? Is that something that you always looking to do, like to trim the profits and roll them back, or do you not really
Sure.
touch it too much? It's a big question. I know people get
I,
confused about this, and myself included.
I don't normally if I set my portfolio up like I had it today, I mean, there would just be no touching anything. I would just
Yeah.
invest. But
Hmm.
I made the mistakes, and now I'm really trying to produce content to say, don't do what I did, right? Like,
Yeah.
please save yourself while you can. But because I made the mistakes, I got to get myself out of the position that I'm in, this hole I feel like I'm in. And so it's going to require some heartache of selling some stocks. It's not what I want to do, but it's what I think the best move is.
Hmm.
So, for example, I mean, it wasn't just Medtronic in my IRA. Starbucks that I held on to for quite some time is a phenomenal company. They got an incredible product, and they've, I mean, really just gone a long way in terms of globalizing the mocha chocas, right? But I I think that my capital is going to be better off in a better growth oriented stock. Now, probably there's going to be dividend investors out there that are like, "Oh my God, Starbucks is a great stock." And, Brian Nicole is there now. And first of all, I have,
Hmm.
my 2 cents about Brian. I think he could do wonders for Starbucks. I think he's a flashy guy the way he's coming in. I don't like that. Um, Another story, right? It's just not how I
Hmm.
would lead. But when I think about Starbucks in the future, I'm asking myself this question of, well, Visa or Starbucks? Like, who's going to be the real game changer here? People are going to continue to enjoy Starbucks. So, Starbucks would probably be more of a stock that if I was, say, 50 or 60, I would enjoy the
Yeah.
sweetness of that dividend. But Visa right now for me is more of an appealing opportunity because we're still bending and molding and really even with credit cards, right? Lines of credit. This is still relatively new technology, as like crazy as that sounds. So I take that into consideration. We have, at least in my portfolio, I have Darden Restaurants, which was a position that I saw. This is where I say macros matter. Darden Restaurants is a phenomenal restaurant operator of multiple restaurants within the United States. A lot of popular brands from the Olive Garden and Longhorn Steakhouse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've not
Hey,
heard of
Haley,
this.
do you know any of these brands when I say
Yeah,
them
I
or
know
no?
Olive Garden and stuff. I've just not heard of the what was it? Darton? Did you say?
Darden Restaurants,
Yeah, I've
ticker
not heard of
symbol
that one before.
DRI. Phenomenal dividend
DRI.
player.
Okay.
Now, I initially 2020 hit and it sank this puppy down to like
Oh yeah, I
peanuts.
can see.
And of course, it's like the big question in 2020 was like, will restaurants eventually open up? And for me, it was like
Yeah.
that they will eventually. It's just going to be a matter of time. And so I looked at Darden in 2020, and I actually threw a heap sum of money in there, and I made a decent amount from Darden. And then not too long ago, right, just playing the macros of the market, understanding interest rates and consumer spending habits, and how consumers are spending their firepower. Well, Darden restaurants started to come down. And that was a twofold reason, right? So, first of all, to pay labor expenses increased with inflation and interest rates, as well as for supply. But then demand fell. And so Darden's really getting squeezed on two ends, and the stock was falling. It fell to
Mhm.
around 140. And so I threw as like a swing trade in an IRA so I can have the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Um, threw money into Darden, and then I just sold out and then put the money into Google. So
Yeah, makes
I
sense.
hold Darden still outside of the IRA because I don't want to do a lot of trades outside the IRA. But stocks like Medtronic, Starbucks, these ones are coming out, and more of a focus and foundation are going into the Alphabets, Apples, Amazon, and Tesla are actually two non-paying. Yes, I have non-paying dividend
Yeah.
stocks.
I was That's so funny you said that. I was literally going to say for the last question, let's just talk quickly. I wanted to confirm that you had Tesla in your account and you've just said that you do. So thank you for
I,
confirming that. A lot of my listeners
I
will
am
enjoy
confirming.
that.
I don't, it's just under $5,000 worth of Tesla. I wish I bought more. I didn't. It's where I'm at. Again, I think back, mistakes made. I was very risk adverse then because I didn't really understand the name of the game here, but I threw a few $1,000s into Tesla and it rewarded me handsomely.
Mhm.
Amazon is a rather new position. So Amazon and Tesla are the only positions that don't pay me a dividend that I do have high conviction on, and I think will
Mhm.
continue to change the game for
Yeah.
decades to come.
And I have both of those. They are two of my holdings as well. The only one that I don't have. Oh no, you don't have Nvidia either. So I have Nvidia and Palantir as my within my top four as well. So yeah, I
As
guess we do have quite a similar one, really.
as long as I have the Hayley Eich stamp of approval
Yeah,
on
you do.
Amazon and Tesla, I'm good.
You always do. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up there because I realise we're over an hour mark and my camera's gone off, which I imagine for the viewers is a little bit annoying. Now you've just got half a black screen. I apologise. It's clearly too hot in the UK for my camera to handle it. But I appreciate you coming on, Ari. We'll do this again because yeah, I could pick your mind all day on investing and non-investing related topics. You're a very, very interesting guy. So I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being so honest and so transparent with the mistakes that you've made and what you're doing next and everything else. Because I think for a lot of people that watch YouTube, I say YouTubers, I really hate being referred to as a YouTuber. I don't know why. But anyway, when people watch YouTube and they listen to people investing, it can quite often seem quite detached from their reality. But I think the way that you share things and how you talk about what your mistakes are and stuff, it makes it so much more relatable. So I love that. So thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everybody took at least a sliver of something to run with.
I'm sure they did. Thanks again. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.